Look around you for a moment. In your family, at the workplace, in society, there are things you notice, but never say out loud. Because the moment you do, people label you disrespectful, heartless, or ungrateful. But deep down, you know this truth. Age does not automatically create wisdom. Respect is not inherited, it is earned. Many seniors complain that today's generation has no manners. But no one talks about the ugly behaviors many seniors repeat every single day. Behaviors that silently destroy respect, relationships, and trust. Everyone notices. Everyone feels it. But no one tells you. Why? Because society has trained us to stay quiet, to tolerate, to excuse bad behavior with one dangerous sentence. They're old. Let it go. But what if letting it go is exactly why the cycle never ends? Today's video is not about insulting elders. It's about truth. Uncomfortable truth. The kind that makes people angry because it's accurate. If you've ever felt emotionally drained by an elder, if you've ever been guilt-tripped, controlled, or constantly criticized, if you've ever thought, why does no one talk about this? This video is for you. Warning: this video will trigger many people because it exposes behaviors that hide behind age and tradition. Before we begin, like this video if you believe honesty matters more than comfort. Subscribe if you're tired of fake respect and silent suffering. Because today, we're talking about the ugly things many seniors do, things everyone notices, but no one tells you. Let's begin. 1. Using age as a weapon, not wisdom. One of the ugliest habits many seniors slowly develop without even realizing it is turning their age into a shield against accountability. Not wisdom, not experience. A weapon. At first, it's subtle. A sharp comment passed off as honesty. An insult wrapped in, "I've seen more life than you." A boundary crossed because, in our time, this was normal. They speak without thinking, judge without understanding, interfere without being invited. And when someone finally gathers the courage to speak up when a son, daughter, younger colleague, or even a stranger calmly says, "That hurt," or "That's not okay," the conversation doesn't turn toward reflection. It turns toward authority. "I'm older than you. You don't talk back to elders. Learn to respect your seniors." Just like that, age is pulled out like a trump card. Not to guide, not to teach, but to shut the other person up. And this is where something breaks. Because real wisdom doesn't feel threatened by questions. Real wisdom doesn't need to raise its voice. Real wisdom doesn't demand silence, it invites dialogue. But fake wisdom panics when challenged. It demands obedience because it cannot survive scrutiny. You see this in families all the time. An elder humiliates a younger person in front of others about their job, their marriage, their choices. When the younger person finally reacts, the room turns against them. How dare you talk like that to someone so old? No one asks what was said. No one asks how much it hurt. Only who said it matters. And slowly, the younger person learns a dangerous lesson. My feelings don't matter here. Truth is less important than hierarchy. So they stop talking. They stop sharing. They stop trusting. Not because they lack respect, but because respect has been replaced with fear. Age, when used like this, doesn't create dignity. It creates emotional distance. The irony is painful. Seniors often complain, "Kids today don't respect elders." But what they don't see is this. Respect doesn't die suddenly. It erodes quietly every time age is used to avoid responsibility. Every time an apology is replaced with, "I'm older." Every time accountability is replaced with, "That's how I am." Every time truth is silenced in the name of tradition. And here's the part no one likes to admit. People don't lose respect because someone is old. They lose respect because age is used to dominate instead of guide. Because when age stops listening, when experience stops learning, when authority refuses humility, wisdom leaves the room. What remains is just time. And time alone has never made anyone wise. If this made you uncomfortable, good, because growth never begins with comfort. 2. Constant criticism, disguised as concern. Nothing empties a room faster than a senior who criticizes everything and then calls it care. At first, it sounds harmless. A comment about your job, a remark about your appearance, a suggestion about how you should live. But it never stops at one comment. Your career is never stable enough. Your income is never impressive enough. Your lifestyle is always wrong. Your decisions are always a mistake waiting to happen. And the most damaging part? None of it is asked for. You didn't ask for advice. You didn't ask for judgment. You didn't ask to be corrected. Yet every conversation turns into an evaluation. And when you finally react, when your face tightens, when your voice changes, when you say, "Please stop," the criticism suddenly puts on a mask. "I'm only saying this for your good. I care about you. That's why I speak. If I don't tell you, who will?" But let's be honest. Concern does not humiliate. Concern does not belittle. Concern does not repeat the same wound until it bleeds. Real concern guides. Fake concern controls. There's a difference between helping someone grow and making sure they never feel good enough. And this kind of criticism doesn't come loudly, it comes daily. At the dinner table, in front of relative, during casual conversations, small comments, sharp tone, disapproving looks, death by 1,000 cuts. You start second-guessing everything. Your confidence weakens not because you're incapable, but because someone keeps reminding you of your flaws in the name of love. And slowly, something inside you shuts down. You stop sharing good news because it will be questioned. You stop sharing struggles because it will be blamed on you. You stop sharing dreams because they'll be mocked as unrealistic. Not because you became secretive, but because criticism made vulnerability unsafe. This is the part many seniors don't understand. When every conversation feels like a courtroom, people stop bringing their hearts. They bring silence. And then those same seniors complain. "You never tell me anything. You've changed. You're distant now." No, you didn't change. You adapted. You learned that openness had a cost. And that cost was your self-worth. The tragedy is that most of this criticism isn't even about you. It's about fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of irrelevance. Fear that the world has moved on without them. So they criticize what they don't understand. They attack what they can't control. They correct what they cannot accept. But here's the truth that hurts the most. Criticism does not build strong people. It builds quiet people. People who smile on the outside and withdraw on the inside. If this feels painfully familiar, you're not weak. You're human. And recognizing this pattern isn't disrespect. It's self-protection. Because love that constantly hurts is not guidance. It's erosion. And erosion destroys slowly. Until one day, there's nothing left to share. If this hit close to home, sit with it. Because awareness is where healing begins. 3. Emotional blackmail and guilt trapping. This one is the most dangerous because it doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't attack openly. It wraps itself in love. It disguises itself as sacrifice. "I sacrificed my whole life for you. I gave up my dreams for this family. After everything I've done, this is how you repay me?" No yelling, no violence, just words, but words that sink deep and stay there for years. Slowly, love is replaced by debt. Care is replaced by obligation. You're no longer loved because you're valued. You're loved because you owe. Every decision you make is weighed against the past. Every boundary you try to set is crushed under sacrifice. Every attempt to live freely is labeled selfish. And the most painful part? The sacrifice may have been real, but it is now being used as a weapon. Guilt becomes the leash. You don't move because you're scared to hurt them. You don't speak because you're scared to seem ungrateful. You don't choose yourself because you've been trained to believe that choosing yourself is betrayal. So you obey. You show up. You provide. You comply. But something vital quietly dies inside. Because obedience is not connection. And fear is not love. This is how emotional blackmail works. It keeps the body present while the soul slowly leaves. You'll see it everywhere. A parent reminding a child of hardship every time they disagree. An elder falling sick the moment boundaries are set. Tears that appear only when control is threatened. I don't need anything. I just won't live long anyway. Do whatever you want. I'm used to being ignored. The message is clear. If you live your life, I will suffer. And my suffering will be your fault. Over time, people learn a devastating lesson. Their happiness hurts someone else. So they shrink. They delay dreams. They silence desires. Not because they lack courage, but because guilt has been woven into their identity. And then, years later, seniors ask, "Why don't you spend time with me? Why do you feel distant? Why does no one talk to me anymore?" They don't realize the truth. You didn't leave physically. You left emotionally long ago. Because relationships built on guilt don't create closeness. They create resentment. And resentment grows quietly, patiently, until it turns into numbness. Here's the harsh truth no one says out loud. Love that constantly reminds you of sacrifice is no longer love. It's control wearing a halo. Real love gives without counting. Real love doesn't keep score. Real love doesn't ask for repayment with your freedom. And when guilt becomes the currency of connection, loneliness becomes the final payment. If this feels too close, you're not heartless. You're awakening. Because seeing emotional blackmail for what it is the first step toward reclaiming your life. And that realization, it changes everything. 4. Refusing to accept change and attacking those who adapt. Change is uncomfortable for everyone. But for some seniors, it becomes personal. It's no longer just confusion with technology or difficulty understanding new ideas. It turns into resistance, and then into hostility. Technology, mindsets, boundaries. Instead of learning, they mock. Instead of asking, they dismiss. Instead of adapting, they attack. You people are addicted to phones. In our time, we didn't need all this. This modern thinking is destroying society. Every new idea is treated like a threat. Every evolving belief is labeled disrespect. Every boundary is seen as rebellion. And what hurts most is this. They don't just reject change, they shame those who adapt. A young person chooses mental health over blind endurance called weak. Someone sets boundaries called selfish. Someone challenges outdated norms called spoiled or arrogant. Growth becomes a crime. You see it at home, at family gatherings, in everyday conversations. A younger person explains something new, not arrogantly, just honestly, and is immediately cut off. You'll understand when you're older. But what they really mean is, don't question the world I'm comfortable in, because change doesn't just introduce something new. It exposes what was never questioned before. And that exposure feels dangerous. So instead of curiosity, there is ridicule. Instead of openness, there is nostalgia used as a weapon. In our days, people respected elders. In our days, families stayed together. In our days, life was simpler. But here's the truth. No one says out loud, the past is not automatically better. It's just familiar. And familiarity can become a prison. When seniors cling to the past without reflection, tradition stops being guidance and becomes rigid control. Tradition is meant to be a bridge, not a chain. Yet many use it as a way to freeze the world in a version where they still feel powerful. And anyone who adapts threatens that power. So they mock therapy. They dismiss emotional intelligence. They ridicule new careers. They shame different lifestyles. Not because these things are wrong, but because they are uncontrollable. And when control slips, bitterness grows. This is why conversations turn hostile, why advice becomes lectures, why disagreements feel like personal attacks. Because adapting means accepting one painful truth. The world no longer revolves around you. And instead of growing with it, some seniors choose resentment. But life does not wait for approval. It keeps moving. With or without you, those who refuse to grow don't preserve tradition. They fossilize it. They turn living values into dead rules. They turn wisdom into rigidity. They turn experience into ego. And the cost is heavy. Relationships fracture. Communication collapses. Distance grows not from disrespect, but from exhaustion. People don't walk away because elders change too little. They walk away because elders refuse to change at all. If this feels uncomfortable, it should. Because wisdom is not about clinging to yesterday, it's about preparing others for tomorrow. And those who attack growth don't stop time. They only isolate themselves from it. That isolation? That's the real tragedy no one warns them about. 5. Playing the victim in every situation. Some seniors don't just experience pain, they become it. No matter what happens, no matter who speaks, no matter how gently an issue is raised, they are always the victim. If someone disagrees, it's not a difference of opinion. It's disrespect. If someone says no, it's not a boundary. It's betrayal. If someone distances themselves, it's not self-preservation. It's abandonnement. There is no room for context, no space for nuance, no willingness to ask, did I contribute to this? Self-reflection quietly disappears. Blame takes its place and never leaves. You see it play out in the smallest moments. A calm conversation turns into a dramatic monologue. A simple boundary becomes a personal attack. A request for change becomes proof that they are unloved. I guess I'm the bad one now. I can never do anything right. Everyone is against me. The room freezes. Because the moment someone plays the victim, the conversation is no longer about truth. It's about comforting them. And that's the trap. Victimhood becomes armor. It protects them from responsibility, from accountability, from growth. Anyone who questions them is suddenly cruel. Anyone who holds them accountable is suddenly heartless. So people stop trying. They stop explaining. They stop defending. They stop being honest. Not because they agree, but because every honest conversation ends the same way. With guilt, with drama, with emotional exhaustion, and slowly, resentment replaces empathy. What makes this behavior so damaging is that it rewrites reality. The senior is never wrong. They are only misunderstood. Never hurtful, only too honest. Never controlling, only concerned. And anyone who dares to point out a pattern is accused of being ungrateful. This is how relationships rot, not with explosions, but with emotional fatigue. People start walking on eggshells, measuring every word, suppressing every feeling, because no one wants to be blamed for hurting someone who refuses to look inward. And here's the most painful part. Playing the victim feels powerful at first. It draws sympathy. It demands attention. It forces others to soften. But over time, it isolates. Because people don't pull away from elders who are vulnerable. They pull away from elders who are emotionally impossible. When nothing is ever your responsibility, nothing can ever be repaired. No apology is sincere. No conversation resolves anything. No relationship grows. Everything just decays. And then comes the confusion. Why does everyone avoid me? Why does no one talk to me anymore? Why am I so alone? They don't see the pattern because victimhood has blinded them to their own role. The truth is harsh, but necessary. Pain does not excuse refusing accountability. Age does not justify emotional manipulation. Suffering does not cancel responsibility. Everyone hurts. Everyone struggles. But wisdom is the ability to say, I may be hurting, but I may also be hurting others. Without that awareness, victimhood becomes a cage, a lonely one. If this feels familiar, take a breath. Recognizing this pattern doesn't make you cruel. It means you're finally seeing clearly. Because relationships don't die from disagreement, they die when one person refuses to ever take responsibility. And that quiet refusal, that's what pushes people away long before they physically leave. 6. Demanding respect while showing none. Respect is fragile. It doesn't survive force, and it cannot live alongside hypocrisy. Yet, one of the most damaging behaviors many seniors fall into is this. They demand respect loudly, constantly, aggressively, while offering none in return. They want politeness, obedience, and silence. They want their words accepted without question. They want their opinions treated like law. But watch their behavior closely. They interrupt mid-sentence. They dismiss feelings with a wave of the hand. They ridicule ideas before hearing them fully. They speak at people, not with them. And when someone finally reacts, when a younger person raises their voice slightly, or even just changes their tone, the accusation comes instantly. You have no respect. This generation doesn't know manners. How dare you speak to me like that? As if respect were something they are owed by default, and not something they are responsible for sustaining. This is where respect quietly dies, because respect that flows in only one direction is not respect. It's submission, and submission breeds resentment. You see this pattern everywhere. At family gatherings where elders dominate conversations but never listen. At workplaces where seniority is used to silence new ideas. At dinner tables where younger voices are tolerated but never valued. The message is clear. You can speak, but only after I'm done. You can disagree, but only silently. You can exist, but don't challenge me. And the most painful part? These seniors often confuse fear with respect. People stay quiet not because they admire them, but because engaging feels pointless, exhausting, or dangerous. So politeness becomes a mask. Smiles become shields. Silence becomes survival. But inside, respect is already gone. Because real respect doesn't need to be demanded. It's felt. It comes from consistency, from humility, from the ability to listen without feeling threatened. Age may deserve courtesy, yes, but character earns honor, and character is revealed in moments of disagreement. Does the person listen, or do they dominate? Do they reflect, or do they lecture? Do they treat others as equals in humanity, or as inferiors in hierarchy? When seniors constantly talk down to others, correct them publicly, mock their emotions, or belittle their experiences, they are not teaching manners. They are modeling disrespect, and people learn quickly. They may stay, they may help, they may fulfill obligations, but the emotional connection thins. Respect becomes mechanical, forced, empty, and then seniors complain. People don't value elders anymore. No one listens to experience. They don't realize the painful truth. People don't reject elders. They reject being disrespected. Respect isn't destroyed by age gaps. It's destroyed by arrogance disguised as authority. True elders don't shout about respect. They embody it. They listen before they speak. They correct without humiliating. They disagree without demeaning. They understand one timeless truth. Respect is not a crown you wear. It's a bridge you maintain. And once that bridge collapses, no amount of demanding will rebuild it. If this feels heavy, it's because it's real. Because the deepest disrespect is not loud, it's when people stop caring enough to argue at all. That silence? That's when respect is already gone. 7. Living in the past and resenting the present. Some seniors don't just remember the past. They live there. They glorify their time, their struggles, their sacrifices. Every conversation somehow circles back to what they endured, how hard life was, how little they had, how strong they became because of it. At first, it sounds like storytelling. Then, it starts to feel like comparison. Eventually, it becomes invalidation. You people have it easy. You don't know what real struggle is. In our time, we didn't complain. What begins as memory turns into judgment. And the present, your present, is quietly dismissed as weak, spoiled, and undeserving. The tragedy is this. Instead of using their past to teach resilience, they use it to erase your pain. A young person speaks about burnout. They hear laziness. Someone talks about anxiety. They hear excuses. Someone struggles in a world of rising costs, constant pressure, and invisible expectations. They hear entitlement. Pain is not listened to. It is measured. And measured pain always loses. Every generation fights different battles. But when seniors weaponize the past, suffering becomes a competition and empathy disappears. They forget something crucial. Struggle doesn't disappear. It changes shape. What they carried physically, you carry mentally. What they fought openly, you fight silently. But when they resent the present, they refuse to see that. Instead, they cling to nostalgia like proof of superiority. In our days, families stayed together. In our days, people respected elders. In our days, life had meaning, but memory edits reality. It forgets the silences, the unspoken pain, the people who endured quietly because they had no choice. And when the past is romanticized this way, the present is painted as failure. This creates a deep, quiet wound. You stop sharing struggles because they'll be minimized. You stop celebrating progress because it will be mocked. You stop asking for understanding because it will be denied. And resentment grows on both sides. Seniors feel unheard and irrelevant. Younger people feel unseen and invalidated. The bridge between generations cracks, not because of time, but because of refusal to listen. The most heartbreaking part? Living in the past often hides fear. Fear of becoming unnecessary. Fear that the world no longer needs their strength. Fear that their suffering no longer defines value. So instead of evolving, they resent. But resentment doesn't preserve dignity. It destroys connection. The past is meant to be a foundation, not a weapon. Wisdom doesn't say, "My pain was worse than yours." Wisdom says, "I survived pain. Let me help you survive yours." When seniors choose comparison over compassion, they don't pass down strength. They pass down silence. And silence is heavy. If this feels familiar, know this. Your pain is not imaginary. Your struggle is not weak. Your generation is not inferior. Different doesn't mean easier. And the moment someone uses their past to invalidate your present, they are no longer teaching wisdom. They are protecting their own identity. True elders don't live in yesterday. They use it to light the way forward. Anything else is just resentment disguised as nostalgia. And that's what truly keeps people emotionally distant, even when they sit in the same room. 8. Expecting care without emotional investment. This is the harshest truth of all, because it exposes what many relationships are built on. Many seniors expect loyalty, care, and constant presence, but never ask themselves what they've invested emotionally. They expect visits. They expect obedience. They expect sacrifice. They expect to be prioritized. But they rarely offer emotional safety, rarely offer warmth, rarely offer understanding. And that imbalance slowly poisons the relationship. Care becomes a duty, not a desire. Presence becomes obligation, not connection. You see it in the smallest moments. A younger person comes home exhausted and is met with criticism, not compassion. They try to share a struggle and are told to be stronger, quieter, tougher. They express feelings and are dismissed as dramatic or ungrateful. Over time, they learn something painful. Their emotions are inconvenient here, so they stop bringing them. And that's when connection begins to die. Because relationships don't run on age, they run on emotional reciprocity. You cannot demand closeness while creating emotional distance. You cannot expect care while withholding kindness. You cannot ask for loyalty while offering control. Yet many seniors confuse responsibility with love. If you're family, you must stay. If you're my child, you owe me. If you care, you'll endure. But endurance is not affection, and obligation is not bonding. People can take care of someone's needs while starving emotionally. And that's exactly what happens. They show up physically. They help financially. They fulfill responsibilities. But emotionally, they withdraw because every interaction feels draining. Every conversation feels unsafe. Every visit feels heavy. And then seniors ask the question that hurts the most. Why do you feel distant? Why don't you stay longer? Why don't you call more often? They don't see that distance didn't begin with absence. It began with emotional neglect, with moments where kindness was replaced by control, where understanding was replaced by judgment, where vulnerability was met with dismissal. Here's the truth few want to hear. People don't abandon elders because they lack morals. They detach because staying costs too much emotionally. Distance feels peaceful, not because there is no love, but because there is no emotional safety. Peace becomes more valuable than proximity. And that realization is devastating. Because love cannot survive where emotions are punished. Connection cannot grow where feelings are ignored. Care cannot flourish where warmth is absent. The most painful irony? Many seniors gave materially, time, money, effort, but emotional investment was never learned, never modeled, never practiced. And now they are paying a price they don't understand. Real care grows from small, quiet things. Listening without interrupting, validating feelings without fixing, offering kindness without conditions. Without these, relationships collapse under expectation. If this feels heavy, it's because it's honest. Because at the end of life, people don't remember who demanded their presence. They remember who made them feel safe. And those who invest emotionally never have to beg for care. It arrives naturally. Anything else becomes obligation. And obligation, no matter how dutiful, always carries the weight of quiet distance. As we conclude, this video wasn't meant to disrespect elders. It was meant to wake people up. Age can make you wiser, or it can make your flaws louder. The choice is personal. If this video spoke the truth you've always felt, like it, subscribe, and comment truth over tradition. Because silence protects bad behavior, and honesty, no matter how uncomfortable, sets people free.